All right, today we're stepping inside what's called the moral cage. We're going to deconstruct a psychological mechanism, one that uses your own conscience against you. Now, this isn't about good people or bad people, it's about power dynamics. It's about a hidden architecture of influence that runs silently in our homes, our jobs, our relationships, and it turns our best qualities, our empathy, our sense of what's fair, into a tool for compliance. We're not here to judge, we're here to analyze. Let's begin. Think about that for a second. It's a paradox, right? But it cuts right to the heart of what we're talking about. See, in the world of influence, a display of pain isn't always a sign of weakness. A lot of the time, it's a strategic move. It's a signal designed to trigger a very specific response in you. It's a performance of vulnerability that's actually meant to seize control. When you hear that loud ouch, your gut instinct is to fix it. But what if the person crying out is just flipping a switch, knowing full well your empathy will do all the heavy lifting for them? That's the response we're here to map out. You know, most of us think our empathy is our greatest strength as a human. And in a lot of ways, it is. It's the glue that holds society together. But if you look at it from a purely clinical, strategic point of view, it's also a vulnerability. Think of it like an open, unsecured port on a computer. If someone knows the right code, they can just plug right in and get access to your entire emotional operating system. They can use your own deep-seated desire to be a good person as leverage to steer your behavior, your decisions, and your time, all without ever giving you a direct order. Your conscience, it becomes the weapon they use against you. So let's get into the anatomy of this cage. The central idea we're going to use here is the emotional remote control. Imagine someone is pressing buttons and your nervous system is reacting with these jolts of anxiety, of obligation, of guilt. But the buttons they're pressing are labeled with your values. There's the be considerate button, the don't be selfish button, the repay your debts button. These are all good things to value, but in the hands of a skilled operator, they become tools to manage you from a distance. Our goal here is to expose that remote for exactly what it is. Okay, let's be really precise here. Guilt sensitivity isn't just about feeling bad when you've actually done something wrong. That's a healthy thing. That's your moral compass working. What we're examining is something totally different. This is an active mechanism. It's a system where one person figures out that by signaling hurt or disappointment, they can get a predictable, compliant action out of someone else. They discover that your conscience has a trigger, and that broadcasting their unhappiness is the fastest way to get you to do what they want. They are, in effect, outsourcing their own emotional regulation to you. To really get how this works, we have to draw a very sharp line between two completely different concepts. On one side, you've got the reciprocity norm. This is the healthy, vital social contract of give and take. Hey, you help me move, I'll buy you pizza. It's based on mutual exchange, it's usually clear and upfront, and it makes our relationship stronger. But on the other side, you have its weaponized twin, induced debt. This is a manufactured, unsolicited feeling of obligation. Somebody does you a favor you never even asked for, and then holds it over your head. Or they give you unsolicited advice, then act wounded when you don't take it. It's not about connection, it's about control. And its main job is to erode your cognitive sovereignty, your basic right to think and act for yourself, free from someone else's emotional management. Let's make this personal, because this is where the rubber meets the road. Picture this, it's Friday, 6 p.m. You are packing up, ready for the weekend. A colleague comes over with a tiny favor that you just know is gonna take 3 hours. You don't even really like this person. The request is totally unreasonable. Every logical cell in your brain is screaming no, but you hear yourself say, of course. Why? Because in that split second, your brain ran a quick calculation, and the anticipated pain of their disappointment, the guilt of saying no, it felt more physically unbearable than giving up your entire Friday night. That physical ache, that's not an accident. It's a signal that the system is working perfectly. You are over-functioning to manage someone else's feelings. Okay, so how is that pain manufactured? What is the engine that drives this whole system of control? We are now heading into the engine room to look at the mechanics of what we call the debt compliance loop. This isn't random, it's a repeatable 4-stage process. This is the core framework that makes guilt sensitivity so incredibly effective, because once you're caught in the loop, it literally powers itself. All right, let's break this down piece by piece. Step 1 is the empathy probe. The operator shares some vulnerability or mentions a past sacrifice they made. It sounds innocent enough, right? I'm just so stressed out lately, or, after everything I've done. They're not just sharing, they're mapping your empathy ports. They're running a diagnostic to see how much of their emotional state you're willing to absorb. Step 2, the injury frame. A conflict comes up. Maybe you say no to something or you set a boundary. They don't argue the facts, they argue hurt. The conversation instantly becomes about their pain. I can't believe you do this to me. This is the leverage point.
It's designed to bypass your logic and trigger an immediate primitive debt reflex. Step 3, moral scrutiny. As you're trying to explain your boundary, they pivot. The conversation is no longer about the request, it's about your character. Your reasonable boundary gets reframed as you being selfish or uncaring. So now you're not just defending a decision, you are defending your very identity as a good person. And that leads right into step 4, the concession fix. You give in. You drop the boundary, you apologize, you do the thing. Why? For that immediate, powerful wave of relief from the pain of that moral scrutiny. The operator's mood instantly lifts, they approve of you again, and that becomes your reward. And right there, the trap closes. The loop is complete.
And here is the absolutely crucial point. This loop isn't a one-time thing. It's a self-reinforcing feedback system. I mean, from a behavioral psychology standpoint, it's a perfect trap. The operator gets positive reinforcement. Their tactic worked. They got what they wanted. You get negative reinforcement. By giving in, that painful feeling of guilt went away. So your concession becomes proof to them that their hurt was justified all along. Your compliance is the very thing that fuels the machine for the next round, making it more efficient and harder to break out of each time. So, we've seen how the loop works. We've mapped out the mechanics, but why is it so unbelievably powerful? Why do we fall for it, even when our rational brain is flashing warning signs that something is off? Well, the answer is buried deep in our evolutionary programming. The operator isn't just playing with your feelings, they're pressing a primal panic button that's hardwired into the oldest part of your brain. For hundreds of thousands of years, our ancestors lived in these small, tight-knit tribes where cooperation was everything. Being part of the group wasn't just a nice thing to do, it was the only way to survive. If you were seen as selfish or not pulling your weight, it meant ostracism, and getting kicked out of the tribe was a death sentence. So our brains evolved this incredibly sensitive threat detection system, and the number one threat it's always scanning for is social disapproval. Today, someone being disappointed in you is just an uncomfortable feeling, but to our ancient lizard brain, it feels like a genuine threat to our survival. That gut punch of guilt you feel when someone implies you're a bad person, that is your brain's ancient alarm system screaming, "Warning, ostracism risk is high, fix this now, pay the debt, or you will be left to die alone." The operator is simply exploiting an ancient evolutionary trigger for a modern social win. And there's another sneaky layer to this, a specific tactical move. It's called the benevolence trap. See, our brains love shortcuts, and one of the most powerful shortcuts we use is the halo effect. If someone seems good in one way, we just assume they're good in all ways. A specific version of this is that the person who seems to be hurting must be the person who is morally right. Manipulators get this instinctively. They weaponize it by immediately casting themselves as the victim. The second they say ouch, they grab the moral high ground. And by default, that shoves you into the role of the aggressor, even if all you did was hold a perfectly reasonable boundary. So now you're not just negotiating a simple request, you're fighting your way out of a moral hole that they just dug for you. Okay, we've diagnosed the mechanism, we get the mechanics, we've dug down to its evolutionary roots. Now we shift from diagnosis to solution. How do you actually break the loop? How do you get your agency back? The answer is not to get aggressive or to stop caring. The answer is a clear, actionable procedure, a counter algorithm. We call it the Debt-Audit Protocol. This right here. This is the crucial mindset shift. As long as you are operating from the emotional state of a debtor, just frantically trying to pay back a feeling that you supposedly caused, you will always be in that cage. The way out is to fundamentally change your role in the interaction. You have to stop feeling the guilt and start inspecting the claim. Stop being the debtor, become the auditor. You shift from an emotional reaction to a cool, analytical assessment. It's time to check the receipts. So what does this audit look like in the real world? It's a precise 3-step procedure. Step 1, cognitive reappraisal. The second you hear that heavy sigh or disappointed tone and you feel that clutch in your stomach, you don't react. You label. You literally say to yourself, this is an induced guilt signal. This is the injury frame. Just naming the tactic activates the rational part of your brain and pulls you out of the emotional hijack. It breaks the spell. Step 2, the agreement audit. This is the heart of the whole thing. You ask yourself one simple yes or no question. Did I break a specific, pre-existing, and explicit promise or agreement? Not some unspoken expectation, an actual agreement. If the answer is no, then their feeling of hurt is their own emotional weather. It's valid for them to feel it, but it doesn't belong to you. It is not your debt to pay. This cuts the cord between their disappointment and your responsibility. And finally, step 3, neutral acknowledgement. You don't argue, you don't defend yourself, you don't over-explain. You just state, with calm neutrality, I see that you're upset, and I'm comfortable with my decision. The power of that last phrase, I see you're upset, and I'm comfortable with my decision, is huge. It communicates 2 critical things at the same time.
First, I see you're upset validates their feeling without taking any responsibility for it. You're not saying they're wrong to be upset. You're just acknowledging their reality. And second, and I'm comfortable with my decision, calmly shows them that their emotional state is no longer the tool that will be used to manage your behavior. It signals, clearly and without any aggression, that your cognitive sovereignty is intact. The remote control is no longer in their hand. So as we bring this whole deconstruction to a close, let's just distill everything down to its most essential, actionable idea. This isn't just about getting through tough conversations. It's about recognizing where the control over your most valuable, non-renewable asset, your time and your energy, really lies. It's about ownership.
This is the core strategic principle. The entire moral cage, the whole debt compliance loop, is built on one single point of failure: your acceptance of a debt that was never earned and never agreed to. The moment you audit the transaction and realize there's no actual debt there, the whole system just collapses. Awareness is the key that unlocks the cage. You can't be forced to pay an invoice for a service you never ordered. Their disappointment is their business. Your decisions are yours.
Let that one sink in. The person who has the power to make you feel guilty has the power to dictate your time, your resources, and your energy. By learning to audit for induced debt, you are not becoming selfish or uncaring. You are becoming a more precise and intentional steward of your own life. You're simply taking back the pen and writing your own schedule based on your own values and your own explicit agreements. You are reclaiming ownership.